even if you're a major proponent of early access, and even if you've disagreed with everything I've said about Risk of Rain 2 so far, I want you to think carefully about what I'm about to say. If their game is done and finished enough to be released on consoles, and they're considering it to be an active development in terms of adding features to the completed game, why isn't it why is the 1.0 launch next year? Like, why wasn't the 1.0 launch coincided with the console release, which would have been a really good time to say, yeah, the game's done now. It seems to me that either the game is not done, in which case it shouldn't have a console release yet, or the game is done, but they're just milking the early access program for another year. Like, one of those two things kind of has to be true. And this has to say nothing about the quality of the games or even really the intentions of Hoppo. It might just be this is the most marketable way to make money with the game that they're still working on. If that's the case, I do think it's a flaw of early access. I think it's possible that people were going to buy Risk of Rain 2 on console, not realizing it's unfinished, and then being unsatisfied with the product they get. And console stores are much more hostile towards returns than Steam is. Steam has a very generous return policy. If you buy Risk of Rain 2 on Steam and you play it for a few hours and you don't like it, early access or not, you can get your money back. You can't really do that on the Nintendo store. I don't even know if Nintendo eShop has a return policy. Here's my Clover, way too late to really matter. This has kind of been a lucky run, all things considered. I talked up Enforcer as being this terrible character, and then I just kind of sleepwalk to the end like that, no problem. However, I also think it's possible that, like, people... This is the other problem with early access, and this is something you can see with basically every early access community, is when a game is in early access, I mentioned, like, why Hoppo might be just milking early access for another year. Why would they do that if the game's already for sale on all the major stores? Like, what's a reason that they would do that? I didn't go looking for key cards, and I think I kind of want to. There's one. That blighted Clayman has got to go. Okay, I think he's dead. Let's go ahead and get our key card and repulsion armor here. Good. Definitely want to get the med bay, I think, is going to be a good start here. And then we'll go back and look for more key cards, I think. So, okay, why would Hoppo want to milk early access? Like, what's a benefit to them? A benefit to them is that when you think about, like, the hardcore fanboys of any kind of, like, media, okay? You can especially see this with comic book movies. It's very, very clear to see this with comic book movies. Next time a major comic book movie is announced, or just one of the ones that already been announced, like one of the ones on the Marvel or DC roadmap. I think as I'm recording this, Joker has not been released yet. Go to like the Rotten Tomatoes or like Metacritic page for Joker and look what the review like aggregate score already is when the movie's not out yet. People can already go on and rate it. The fanboys are going to rate it a perfect 10. Every comic movie is a perfect movie before it comes out. And early access games are kind of the same way, because there's this idea that if a game is still in active development, it's not done yet, then it's not fair to criticize it. You will see this again and again and again if you read some of the Steam community forums for early access titles. Somebody will post some criticism of the game, like, hey, Risk of Rain 2 doesn't have a last boss. And then somebody else will come along and be like, hey man, STFU, the game's not done yet, it's not fair to judge. And that scares me? Maybe that's a dumb way to put it, but it does. It scares me because I think it's totally fair to judge an unfinished game if the people who are making it are charging money for it. Like, to say that something is beyond criticism is very dangerous when we're talking about having money on the line. And so but that's a reason that Hoppo might want to stay in early access for as long as possible, even though they clearly see the game as already completed. is as long as this game is in early access, air quotes, then anytime somebody criticizes it, even if we're going to listen to the feedback, which I believe Oppo as a developer would do, like even if we're going to listen and take the feedback to heart, we will have these staunch, infinite defenders who will always come to the rescue and be like, hey, game's not done, you can't talk bad about it until it's done. And of course, given the nature of fanboys, some of them will even say, like, hey, even if the game is done, you still shouldn't talk bad about it. This worries me, because I think if you remove this ability to criticize media, you end up with worse media overall. And I don't ever want to remove that ability to criticize things, even if it's not done. In my opinion, this is the strongest philosophy I have when it comes to early access. And I was going to tell some early access stories, but I don't think we're going to have time in this series. Provided I kill Providence here. I might not actually kill Providence here, I don't know yet. My philosophy is, the second it goes on sale, the game is done. For purposes of you spending money on it, for purposes of you forming opinions about it. If it's done enough for you to spend $1 on it, it's done enough to hang with the big boys in terms of being able to receive criticism now. Please, don't ever buy an early access game and play it and then be like, I don't really like this, but it's early access, so I'll give it a pass. If part of the intent of an early access game is to get feedback and change the game in development, then that criticism is more important, not less important, than a game that's already completed. I love how we get these arms races here when we've got a sacrifice, so we can't possibly have drones. That's always fun. But I've seen both of these things happen with Risk of Rain 2 now. It looks like the developer's no longer using early access as a kind of, hey, we need to get the funding of this game together. Can our super fans help us out with this? It doesn't look like they're using it as, hey, we're going to change the game based on your feedback. The game's going to be better because we're letting people play it in active development. It looks like we have a way to make money from the game while it's in development. Look at that infusion. Way too late to matter. Here at the 11th hour. I'm going to Providence right now. Yeah, we've opened up all the doors. We're going to Providence now. Let's do it. So, I'm very wary about Risk of Rain 2, the way it's being developed, for all of those reasons. And then on top of that, it's just not really a kind of game that I'm interested in playing. So I hope that answers to anybody's satisfaction my thoughts on Risk of Rain 2, like, and why there's no Risk of Rain 2 content on the channel. That's not a hard and fast rule. The day may come where I want to put some Risk of Rain 2 content on the channel. Perhaps the game will come out. Well, I mean, it's already out, but its 1.0 launch might come and change my mind on some stuff. We'll have to see how it goes, but I'm not sure that I'm going to hold out much hope for that. Unfortunately, I don't have a great way to attack Providence, because the range on my shotgun is kind of the range of his sword. So, it's going to be a lot of waiting for the missiles to replenish to actually put damage out on Providence. I don't think we're going to find a better use item out of the box down there. We'll see how it goes. I guess I'll start telling some of my early access stories, because I do have some early access stories where I've been burned before. I'm going to tell two in particular. Both games that I spent money on. My typical response is to not spend money on early access games, but if a game is in early access and it looks not feature complete, but if it looks like the features that are complete, if I'd be happy with those features being all the game is, I may still buy it. And that happened with 2 games, one of which is David Sirlin's Fantasy Strike. This is a 2D fighting game. I don't want to go into too much detail about what the game is, but it's a 2D fighting game, and I thought it was going to be a lot of fun. And it is a lot of fun. It's a good game. But at the time, it didn't have online lobbies, by which it didn't have, like, me and 4 friends can make a lobby and all join Fantasy Strike, and then do, like, a rotation of battles. Like, winner moves on to the next battle. This is such a standard feature in fighting games that when I purchased Fantasy Strike, my thought was, okay, it doesn't have online lobbies yet, but it's early access, so they'll be adding those. I could not imagine a universe where they didn't add lobbies to Fantasy Strike. Didn't make sense. And then on David Sirlin's developer blog, I read one of the updates about how, yeah, we're never having online lobbies. I just don't like them. So even though he doesn't say this, but it's essentially the logical endpoint of what he said is, like, even though this is industry standard, and even though this should be a simple thing to add to the game, that we already have pretty good online play and netcode in, there will never ever be online lobbies because I personally don't like them. It's like, oh, cool. So the only way that I really play 2D fighting games is not going to be an option in Fantasy Strike. And I felt burnt. And I feel like I really should not have spent money on this early access game. So in that sense, that's one way you can get burned by early access, is paying for a game that you think is going to have such and such a feature, and it never getting that feature. And you might be thinking, well, Brickroad, he never said he was going to add lobbies. That's your own full damn fault for assuming he was going to put in a feature he didn't say he was going to have. And yeah, that's fair enough, I suppose. And Providence is dead. Successful run. Look at that. But at the same time, you look at like a development roadmap, like a feature roadmap for something like Risk of Rain 2, and all of these features they say are going to be in the game, there's no guarantee they're all going to make it in. You can still get burned. They might get to their spring 2020 and the company's out of money and there's a problem with the final boss and it doesn't get put in the game, and that's that. That feature just never gets added. You could still get burned that way. The other game that I bought was Dead Cells. I bought that on Steam, early access. This is another game that I believe had a Switch launch while it was still in Steam Early Access, which, like I said, a little disingenuous, I feel, but I liked Dead Cells. Very hard game. I think I went hard at it for about 30 hours playing the game. I never did get a win, but I was getting progressively better, and I built a playstyle that I really liked. Like, I was able to make good choices about what items to buy and how to approach encounters, and then they pushed out a patch that fundamentally changed how the game works. Essentially, it kind of across the board increased the cooldowns of a lot of different attack items, and it essentially made the game unplayable for my playstyle. My playstyle, which was to spam certain types of attacks, was no longer viable in Dead Cells, and I'm like, oh, the game just changed. Its development hit a snag and kind of deflected and ended up on a different course that I wanted it to be, and now it's not the Dead Cells that I like anymore. And in both of these cases, I said to myself, if this was the state of the game when I had bought it, for Fantasy Strike, if I had bought it thinking it had lobbies and it didn't, or for Dead Cells, if I had bought it thinking it would be fun for my playstyle and it wasn't, I told myself I would refund these games. I would get my money back. But I can't, because I gave my money away months before that information came to light in each of these 2 cases. I don't want to dissuade anybody from buying early access titles or from playing Risk of Rain 2. I want you to be smart consumers, and I want you to be wary about what you're buying. I apologize for this Enforcer run. I will not inflict him on you again. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out, guys. Shoutouts to Eurixia for sponsoring this video. If you liked the video and you want to see more, please tickle my thumb, leave a friendly comment, and ring my little bell.